It's time now to take a look at stories making headlines on Nigerian newspapers. I have with me in the studio journalist Dari Odufowokan. Good morning. Thank you for joining us. Right. All right, I head straight to the papers now, and I begin with a developing story in Lagos. Nigeria risks more building collapse due to outdated code. Others, over 100 buildings collapsed in the last 10 years. Experts worry as 36,000 buildings structurally defective in Lagos alone. All right, we move now to this Nigerian newspaper. Ikoyi 21-story tragedy. Caterpillar operator chiseled pillar before collapse. Supervisor. 5 pillars defective. Death toll hits 22 pro panel setup. And still talking about the Ikoyi building collapse on the front page of the Punch newspaper now. Death toll rises as Lagos probes collapse. Owner, pastor missing. Building project sponsors whereabouts unknown. Sanwo-Olu names survivors. 15-story building plan approved, not 21, stated by Deputy Governor. Document shows. All right. And to the Nation newspaper, a collapsed Lagos building government to punish offenders. Sanwo-Olu names promises tough action. Pro panel setup. Death toll now 24. And on the front page of the Tribune newspaper, Nigerian Tribune, Ikoyi building collapse. Buildings above 5 floors under construction for integrity test. Governor speaking. Names NITP President, head of Pro-Panel. Committee report to be submitted in 30 days. Releases names of rescued victims. Help rescue my 18-year-old child. Father cries out to Governor. UK-based man. Other buyers among those trapped at Lagos Assembly to summon government officials. All right, and we move to the front page now of the Daily Independent. 2023 general election. Finally, PDP governors agree to throw presidential ticket open. Nigeria's problem, not zoning, but getting credible candidate. Fintiri. To the Daily Times now. Anambra governorship poll. Massive deployment of security not to intimidate citizens. IGP speaking. To the Blueprint. NEF to federal government. Declare bandits terrorists. Tackle IPOB for hate-free Anambra poll. And on the front page of this day newspaper, INEC will ensure only eligible voters determine next Anambra governor. Vows to prosecute election offenders. IG issues 10 warnings, says heavy deployment to protect all. IPAC demands fairness, transparency from commission security operatives. To the Nigerian News Direct now. Rising insecurity, controversy trails 131 billion naira cut in 2022 military budget. And to the First News newspaper, Abuja troops on alert over rumored attack. Troops on alert over rumored attack. To the Leadership newspaper, insiders explain how security agents get black market court orders. Insiders explain how security agents get black market court orders. And to the Daily Sun now. Red alert in Abuja. Soldiers mount roadblocks, conduct stop and search over feared planned attack. Business activities grounded as troops look for kidnapped lecturers. Again, gunmen attack Union Abuja. To the Daily Trust, NNPC spends 864 billion naira on petrol subsidy in 8 months. Remits 496 billion naira, skips April. Fix refineries to get it right, experts say there. And to the Business Day now, Nigeria faces pressure to raise interest rates. And finally, on the front page of the Guardian newspaper, government to blame for outrageous freight charges by foreign firms. High freight cost jacks up petrol price, not subsidy. WASA insists over $45 billion cargo cost lost to foreign firms in 5 years. All right, let's look at this trending or developing story, rather, talking about the Ikoyi building collapse. And we have our correspondent, Sarah Yeku, at the scene of the building. She joins me now for updates. Sarah, Bring us up to speed, especially with regards to rescue efforts. What's happening as we speak?
So, Veronica, when we were talking on Tuesday, we're talking 4 or 5 persons that have been confirmed dead. But today, Veronica, this is Thursday, in less than 24 hours, we had the death toll tripled. You know, now we're talking 22 persons have been recovered from this incident. If you look at my right, you see the family members still seated here. Some of them are hoping that the person still trapped under the rubble will be saved, will be rescued as soon as possible. So you still find them. They've been here all through the night waiting to see what news they can get from the emergency responders. So you see bystanders also here trying to see what will happen next. We know that the governor was here twice yesterday, and he had made some statements. But before we get to what the governor said, if you look at where the incident actually happened, this is a counseling unit that the governor had set up yesterday. We're yet to see any official there. We understand that they'll be coming around 8 a.m. If you look at where the incident happened, which is where one of the buildings, the 21-story building, collapsed, the excavator for now is not working. We understand that they suspended activity for now. If you look closely, the debris is halfway. They've been able to excavate some part of the debris, and it's halfway already. And people are just wondering what is going on. When we tried speaking with some family members earlier, when we got here, we understand that they didn't even want to speak with us because they are angry, they're frustrated, they're desperate. They want answers. They want to hear good news. So you can imagine what they're going through right now. They are just devastated. They don't even want to be on air so that their family members at home would not even see their faces or reconcile that one of them is still under the rubble. So, Veronica, the area is a bit tense, you know, especially when you look at the faces of the family members of people that are still hoping to get something, some good news, that are still hoping to see their family member come out alive from this incident. People are just, you know, apprehensive. They are frustrated, desperate, and they're hoping and expecting that something good will come out of this.
Right, and just like the governor said yesterday, we can only keep hope alive. Just trying to give an overview of what he said. But sir, do you know if rescue effort has begun at the site? Because what some of the family members have been saying is that the process have been slow, so to speak.
Yes, since we got here, since Monday, we've been hearing that from the family members. They're not satisfied with the response time. They're not satisfied with how the rescue efforts have been going all through from Monday till now. We understand that search and rescue operation stopped at about 2 a.m. this morning. They're yet to resume. We know that they say they will resume at about 8 a.m. But of course, that's not going well with the family members. They're expecting that as soon as, you know, the break of dawn, the rescue efforts will start. So they are a bit scared as to the number of hours these persons have spent under the rubble, trapped, considering oxygen and water and food that these persons need to stay alive. But we know that the emergency responders yesterday pumped in some oxygen, tried putting in some water in there to see if they could keep some persons alive. So for now, we don't know when the rescue efforts will start. We'll hear from them that they say they will start at around 8 a.m. Some of the emergency responders are probably going to freshen up or something. So for now, we still don't know when they will start actually. So we're still hoping that we'll get some kind of good news from here. But if you look at what the governor said yesterday, with regards to this incident, he said that, in his words now, he said mistakes were made from all angles. That's what the governor said yesterday. And while he reeled out the names of the survivors yesterday when he visited here, we understand that he was here twice. So while he visited, he said mistakes were made from all angles. So, which is an admission that some persons, of course, would be, investigations are ongoing to ensure that some persons are brought to book, and of course, we see some persons take responsibility for this action. So, it's a bit dicey. It's a dicey situation when you look at how the government is trying to respond to this and how the family members are trying to cope with their loss. For those who they've been able to identify their loved ones as part of those who are dead, those who have been taken to the morgue. So it's a dicey situation trying to control the anger, the desperation, the frustration when you look at the family and friends of these persons. And of course, the government on one hand is trying to, of course, salvage the situation and see what they can do to, of course, recover or rescue those who are still trapped under the rubble.
Definitely, Sarah, and that is one of the issues, and which the government has been trying to ensure to strike a balance between the response of the families and its effort. Like you have said, that a lot of the persons, their rescue effort has not begun. I want to establish that is what you said, because it ended at 2 a.m. and so hopefully at 8, which is a few minutes from now, rescue efforts will begin, hopefully. And those who are meant to identify family members who are perhaps inside there have also not resumed. Want to establish that as well. But is there anything else that you think we need to know aside all that you have said at this time?
So, you know, as of Tuesday, when we spoke to the emergency responders, they had told us that they were hearing voices from persons inside. We also confirmed that some persons inside were trying to communicate with their family members outside. But for now, we don't know if there are voices being heard anymore. Veronica, I'm not trying to be pessimistic, but we're still hoping and trusting and praying hard that people are rescued from the debris. So, which is the fate of the family members that you see seated here. They've been here all through the night, trying to understand the situation, trying to get the government to see it to see the situation from their own point of view. So it's desperation. They're desperate. They just want some news. They want some kind of information. They want to know what has happened to someone they know who is still trapped under the rubble. And so, but when we spoke to some experts, you know, they have been able to fault the process here. If you look at the construction of the building, according to experts, they say one of the requirements to build a structure like this is to have a signpost. That's the signpost you see there, which has been one major topic, one major issue, you know, that experts have been talking about. They said the signpost should be detailing the architect, the name of the architect, the name of the contractor, the consultant, and that's not the position here. So we still understand that preliminary investigation revealed that it's possible it's an implosion. The building caves in, considering the way the building collapsed, the 21-story building collapsed. But we know that as against reports that we've heard in the past few days, that the approval was given for a 15th floor, but the deputy governor has corrected that, saying that the approval was given for a 21-story building. So all that conversation is still ongoing. We know that, of course, the governor has taken one or two steps, one of which is to suspend the general manager of the Lagos State Building Control Agency, which was on Tuesday, was suspended on Tuesday. We also know that the counseling and identification section has been put up here to ensure that family members can come forward with pictures, names, to identify people that they feel were actually in this building at the time it collapsed. But you know, it's a dicey situation. It's a complex situation for the emergency responders, for the family members who do not even know their fate yet. And when I tried talking to some family members, they told me from their conversations, they are making a lot of preparation, expecting the worst, but some of them are still hoping and praying that they get some good news. Veronica, we all are hoping that we get some good news. How interesting it will be to find that some persons are still alive 72 hours now. This happened on Monday at about 2:45 p.m. Or about 1 p.m. as the case may be. So people are still hoping and praying that some persons or one person, you know, will come out alive from this incident. And that's all our prayer and our fingers fingers are crossed. We are all hoping and waiting for the emergency responders to kickstart the rescue operation here.
Absolutely, Sarah. We can only keep hope alive. We'll come back to you much later, Sarah, but let's have this conversation in the studio where Dario has been seated listening to the updates coming from our correspondent there, Sarah Ayeko, bringing us details, talking about efforts which she said has not started because they walked into the night. They ended at about 2 a.m. and so perhaps they took a break and now are to begin at 8 a.m. And then those who are perhaps the counseling unit that was set up and those who are meant to, take details of family members who say their family members were in there have also not resumed. But let's begin with government's effort. Families are complaining, like she pointed out, that government is not seeing this thing from their point of view, and government is saying, I am trying to help you do something. What do you make of both sides?
It's natural that such will happen. You where the shoe knows where it pinches the most. If you are not wearing a shoe, you may know where it pinches, but you can't know it as much as
the person wearing.
Not the most. So the relatives are the ones whose people are in there. And you can imagine the trauma of not knowing whether your brother, one's sister, one's mother, one's daughter is dead or alive. For those whose relatives have been brought out dead, there is a closure. They already know the situation. They will move on to the next level of giving a befitting burial and mourning the dead. But for those who are still waiting, you can understand their desperation and frustration. So we will have to bear with that. Government will have to bear with that too. On the part of government saying, yes, I'm trying. This is an emergency. You don't plan for it. You don't, in most cases, see it coming.
Yeah.
So when it happens, you gather all resources, available and unavailable, and you try to respond. That's why it's called emergency response.
Yes.
In as much as we will continue to urge government to do more, we'll also need to understand some constraints and other things. However, one thing I want to point out quickly is this issue of going on a break while you are rescuing people who are trapped. I may not be a professional, but I can't come to terms with that. I've seen rescue operations done abroad. We've watched some on TV, and it's a 24-hour thing. We can light up that place. Have people work in shifts.
Right.
Lives are waiting to be saved. The more time they spend there, the more chances
they
lose of surviving. While one would want to appreciate the effort so far, I think if we still hope to bring out more people alive, they had a break since 2 a.m., 6 a.m., to 8 a.m., that's 6 hours. Some people there need just an hour to be saved. Just an hour. Some need 30 minutes. Some are already losing it. And if they bring them out now, we can resuscitate them. We can revive them. If we go off for 6 hours, we should imagine the number of cases we already have in a matter of about 72 hours. So if we had 6 to 72, that's 78 hours already. So we lose more. Yes, the response from what we've had has been fantastic on the part of government, in all fairness. What gave in, what caved in, the house that collapsed, nobody ever thought it was going to happen. And the response, according to those on ground, and due to, going from the visit we've also made to the site, shows that government responded. But in these circumstances, it cannot be satisfactory.
There are those who are even saying that, get across states where we have emergency responders to come join if you're saying we do not have enough persons.
Veronica, I agree perfectly. We need to do all we can, and what we cannot imagine ourselves even doing. We need to go beyond the usual. We need to work beyond the ordinary. It is not too good to hear that there is a break while the rescue operation was ongoing. It's not too palatable.
All right.
I think that should be looked into. Let's save lives. Let's just save lives.
Now, the governor said something yesterday, which Sarah also pointed out. He said mistakes were made from all sides. I wonder what you make of that statement, an admittance that something went wrong.
Veronica, if nothing went wrong, that building
wouldn't have collapsed. Yes, yeah, but that the government came out to say that.
I like what the governor did. What he did was admitting that we will not push blames. Rather, we'll get to the root of this. If he said mistakes were made from us, he has told you nobody will be spared in our search for what happened. He has told you we are not saying government is innocent. Neither are we saying the owners of the building or the builders are totally guilty. We are going to look at everything holistically, and we are going to admit and accept mistakes on all sides. And when we fish out these mistakes, the culprits will also have some explaining to do.
Which a lot of Lagosians or Nigerians are looking forward to.
That's suiting. Because that statement is suiting.
A precedence.
There are controversies over approval. There are controversies over the use of materials. There are controversies over
the number
professional competence of some of the builders, because the company pulled out and the building continued. Who took over? The person who took over didn't hear about the person who pulled out. Did you bother to find out why those who pulled out? These are professional issues. I was here on Tuesday to discuss this issue, and some professionals were here, and we really looked at it that if we want to talk about blames, on both sides of the divide, there were professionals. The building, the company who owns the building employed professionals. In the Ministry of Physical Planning in the state, there are professionals.
Absolutely.
LAPSCA, the Lagos Building Control Agency, is peopled by professionals. So it's the entire gamut of the errors are professional. People who want to see things probably didn't see it, or they saw it and looked the other way, and now we have the situation on our hand. So if the governor would, for God's sake, be true to his words, I am sure we are going to see a lot of revelations that will help the state avoid to the barest minimum and other occurrences like this.
Hopefully, because mentioning them is on the one hand, but that justice is seen to be done.
And then addressing issues. You see, most times it's not even about punishing people. When we say justice is being done, it's not largely about punishment. It's about addressing defects, correcting errors. If you don't admit that, oh, I made this error, how are we going to correct you? And if we don't correct you, how do we prevent the reoccurrence of the same thing?
Right.
If you knew ab initio that these flaws shouldn't go beyond 5, and you're a government official, you know, for whatever reason, pecuniary or relationship, desire to grant 15, upscaled it to 21 later, that's a huge error on your part. You need to admit to it. Then we all agree this is an error. It ought not to have been done. Then no one else will do it. But if you do that, and posterity adjudges that you went away scot-free, someone else will take the risk of doing the same thing. And then the society will still be at risk of occurrences like this.
Now, Darren, let's look at statistics with regards to building collapse in Nigeria. If you look at the front page of the national economy, it says over 100 buildings collapsed in the last 10 years. And then recently, this morning, I was reading a report where the Speaker of the House of Representatives was talking about the fact that the lapses in legislation is part of the reasons why we are seeing some of the things happening. If we know we have these lapses, why are we not addressing it as we should?
We You mentioned something the other time. I am not comfortable with it actually, but it's the truth. Nigerian factor. Sometimes we leave what we should do unattended to, and we only begin to talk about it, raise the roof and all that when disaster happens. Professionals, like I said the other time, are in the business of identifying errors, mistakes, lapses, like we just call it, and exploiting such and bringing us up to speed on the new ways of doing things. Somebody is telling us that we should expect more collapsed buildings because of one reason or the other, the structures, the ways of doing things. Why don't we find ways of correcting these things that we think can lead to more collapsed building? The world over, people do what they call reassessment of buildings in stipulated numbers of years. A building that has been built, they reassess it. Public buildings, private buildings. But instead of doing that in Nigeria, we wait until disaster happens, then we begin to explain that it collapsed due to pressure. If we knew after 20 years a building was going to be under pressure, why don't we have rules, ethics, codes that says after 20 years we'll come and do reappraisal, we'll tell you what to do. We see buildings being reinforced in other countries. You see them working on a building and you ask questions, they'll tell you they are reinforcing the building. Why? Oh, it has spent so number of years and it is perceived, not established to, but perceived to be weakened in certain areas, and it needs to be reinforced. Let us begin to have such maintenance culture.
That's the word.
Let us begin to look beyond just profiting. When we think of making money all the time, we'll begin to have huge problems on our hand that can lead to loss of life and properties as we have now.
All right, let's get back to our correspondent at the scene of the incident in Ikoyi, Sarah Ayeku, to bring us up to speed. Sarah, it is a few minutes past 8 o'clock. Are we seeing these persons that we spoke about earlier, talking about rescue effort? Has it begun? Have we seen those that are meant to identify persons who perhaps are in the building? Have they started work? Have they resumed?
So Veronica, so we're still expecting that rescue operation will start any moment from now. We saw some emergency responders walking, but we've not heard the excavator start working. The help desk that has been set up, we see that they're still trying to sweep and mop up the place to see that the business of this day starts. So we're yet to see officials take their positions at that spot. So that's what we're still expecting. But some minutes ago, some officials from the Lagos State Fiscal Planning Permit Authority walked in to the site to see that some things happen. So we're trying to see that emergency responders get in there on time. I don't know if the general manager for the Lagos State Emergency Response Team is just walking in there. That's the general manager, Mr. Femi Okelson-Itolo. He just walked in there to mobilize his men to get back to work and see if they can save more persons. So hopefully I'm able to get him later on to speak with us and give us the actual situation, what the situation is now as we speak. So of course the family members are still hanging around, staying around, waiting and hoping that they get some kind of good news, some kind of news from the emergency responders. So we're still waiting, Veronica, we're still waiting. And so, of course, expecting that they will come forward to see officials at the help desk and then, of course, get more information about persons that are still trapped there. So we know that yesterday oxygen and water was pumped into the site to ensure that some persons are still kept alive. But how far that operation or that act has gone, we do not know yet, if it has been able to save some persons. But we're just hoping, Veronica, we still have to keep hope alive. Like you say, we're hoping that something good will come out. We're hoping that good news will be heard at the end of today. Veronica.
Right, Sarah. Let me keep you on hold while I come to the studio to get Darius' reaction to the fact that these persons have not resumed at this time.
Expectedly, I'm still displeased we said 8 o'clock. We said it was going to stay too long. Now it's 8 o'clock and they're not there. But we saw Sonitolu walked in. Maybe with his arrival,
they
his
might
men
begin.
Will, commence.
Okay, let me just quickly wrap things up with Sarah. Sarah, what more should we know outside of the fact that these persons have not resumed?
Okay, so you can see that as a Tuesday when we were here, Monday, Tuesday, and some parts of Wednesday, this road was barricaded, of course, to ensure that emergency responders had a free hand and free flow into the site of the incident. But for now, we see that traffic is going on smoothly while the family members are seated on the other side of the road. So the security officers, have reduced. As at Tuesday when we were here, we saw army officials actually here trying to control the crowd. So now we see that the neighborhood watch is around, police officers are around. So not the heavy security that we saw on Tuesday is here. Whatever that signals, I do not know for now. So we're just hoping that the traffic is not a signal that all is well. You still have family members seated and hoping and waiting to hear some kind of good news. So for now, let's all keep hoping, let's all keep praying and waiting to hear something good from the emergency responders. And I'm very sure we should be getting that very soon from them.
Update. Definitely we'll keep tabs with you for more updates, and Sarah will join the Your View crew after this program this morning to bring us up to speed with developments with regards to rescue efforts, as well as those working on the help desk to see if their operations have begun at that time. But Dari, let's come back to you now. Like she pointed out, she said that they are yet to resume. But what we expect, like you pointed out earlier, in an emergency situation, we take these things seriously. I mean, do we need to motivate people? Does this also go to show how much we value lives? I mean, just what's your sense? What do you say?
If we need to motivate people to save lives, let's do it. If we need to push people to save lives, let's do it. If we need to drag people, you see, across the road, we saw people seated.
Yeah.
The forlorn look on their faces tells you a lot, Veronica. Those are looks of despair, almost hopelessness, and things of asking for a miracle to happen. Because when you have a situation like this on your hand, somebody is there helpless, you are out there helpless. You can't even do anything to help your son, your brother, your sister who is in the rubble. And you wait on the authorities. And it appears that they need to do more. But whoever the responders should just please, for the sake of those lives still trapped, do more. And that's all we can say. In this situation, we can only plead. While hoping that things will favor those seated, we can only plead that let's have these things done. It's so pathetic that one does not even know what to say.
All right.
It's that sad.
All right. Thank you, Dario Odufowokan.